the AZ sports fan in the building. Now, I've known this guy for a while now. I hopped on his show, so shout out to him, man. And he's coming. He's representing the Arizona Cardinals, and I got to be honest, man. I'm super happy with how this season's got started for you, man. Like I was rooting for you guys big time against Buffalo. I was so upset when you guys lost that game, to be honest, week 1. Like, I was like, oh, this thing's over, man. I was hyped up. But then after last week, I wasn't as hyped. I was a little bit more nervous. Like, dang, they just smoked the Rams. We got to play that team. Like, hold up. It was fun week 1. Now it's not as fun.
Right.
AZ sports fan, man. How you doing, man? Good to have you on.
I'm good. I mean, I'm assuming that you're saying that because AFC compared to NFC, and obviously we both kind of have some relationship with the Rams there. But yeah, I mean, I was right there with you as well when it comes down to the Buffalo Bills. That game was within reach for the Cardinals,
Goodness.
and then the PI wasn't called for us. But like, there was just a lot of decisions that kind of came down to it. But still, like, we went toe to toe with this team, and it was a really good matchup, honestly.
Man, absolutely. Okay, so we got a few questions for you because we just want to get a little insight. And when I watch it, I get a completely different perspective than what you see week to week. You know this team offseason. Shoot, you messaged me about Julian Okwara, and I was kind of fired up. But then when I started watching them, I was like, oh, I see why they brought in Julian now. Like this guy fits perfectly. When you guys, with Gardeck and what you guys have on the outside, I'm like, this is a great fit there. Real quick, has Julian played at all for you guys yet?
He has, yeah. He played in week 2. So the thing with Jonathan Gannon, his defense is very, very like solely like it's always a swing by committee type of just positions, just that he goes for cornerbacks as well as like just defensive linemen. So Julian Okwara, I think last time I looked, he was definitely in the realm of like 20% of the snaps. So like we elevated him, and he was used. So I'm only assuming that we're gonna see him more and more and more, but like it just kind of really depends on the flow of the game and who's getting after. I mean, obviously Dennis Gardeck went nuts in week 2 for the Cardinals, but yeah, we're using him.
I noticed that too, because even at cornerback, like I was trying to, you got Sean Murphy Bunting, who always seems to be out there, and I'm looking at the opposite side. I'm like, okay, there's Starling Thomas. And they're like, oh, there's Max Melton. You're just seeing guys pop out of nowhere. It's like, yo, everybody's getting on in the action on this game. Let me ask you this, because I think this is a good one. What would you say is an underrated player or position group or maybe just aspect of your team? Maybe that's the field goal unit or something. I don't know. What is like something that people, and it could be Matt Prater's a dog now. Look, right. Matt Prater's a dog. What is it? What is it for the Arizona Cardinals that maybe people don't really talk about? And maybe it's good or bad that you think needs to get a little bit of attention as a Cardinals fan.
So I'm going to give it to the defensive side of the ball, because I think a lot of people, when they look at the offense, they see Kyler and they see the weapons that we have. So I'm going to avoid that. I'm going to go with the defense, but primarily our safety group. And I know you're like, oh, Buda Baker, everybody knows, but not just Buda, Jalen Thompson as well. I feel like we got a really good safety duo back there that can hold it down with one of the best. Jalen Thompson, fantastic player, and it's just a really good 1-2 punch here with Buda Baker back there. Now, Buda Baker is known as the guy, obviously, kind of shot out of a rocket, does crazy plays, blitzes, stuff like that. But when you think of Jalen Thompson, more of a coverage type of guy, and I really, really do like them back there. Our like defensive backs, just in general, including cornerbacks and our safeties, they're actually shaking out to be pretty good. I was a little worried about our cornerbacks heading into the season, but Starling Thomas the fifth, like we got a lot of players that we kind of had amongst the teams. It's actually kind of crazy now thinking about it, Stephen Prater. But yeah, I mean, Starling Thomas the fifth is balling out for the little times that we've seen it. Sean Murphy Bunting's doing pretty good, but Garrett Williams and Sean Murphy Bunting are going to be the 1-2. But when it's a nickel package, we're throwing Starling Thomas the fifth in there as well.
Do you feel the Cardinals could actually win the division this year with all the injuries happening to the Rams? Niners dealing with a bunch of injury bugs. Do you feel like your division's wide open, and do you think you could win it?
That's a good question. Because when you're looking at all across the board, it's just injuries, and it all comes from the two teams that most people have winning the division or landing second. So, I mean, if the Cardinals have any chance, this is the best time to strike, right? When it's hot, and trying to get as much wins as you possibly can, because when Christian McCaffrey comes back and George Kittle was already ruled out, I believe, for this game as well, and Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, once they come back, it's kind of like they're going to get into the role of things. So I feel like if the Cardinals take care of business, and it's I'm not going to sit here and say you guys are easy business, because this is going to be a really tough team to play, but like we got to take advantage of the situation that's kind of in front of us. So I don't know. It's still too early for me to say we're going to win the division, but I do feel like where it's standing right now with Seahawks at the top, us tied at number 2, there's going to be a mix-up. Like we're definitely either going to land in the number 2 spot or the number 3 spot. That I am confident in. Okay. I just somehow feel like the 49ers are going to, do their thing.
Zaven Collins panned out. linebacker from University of Tulsa, because I remember when they drafted him, I was very high on him. I grew up in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I was just really high on him. How's he panned out for the Cardinals?
You know, he's such an interesting player. When we got him, he was mainly a middle linebacker for the Cardinals, and when we got him, he was supposed to be like that dominant guy that he was in college, and it never translated to the point where we would say, okay, that's the guy right in the middle. We kind of have that with Kazir White. Obviously he knows a little bit more of Jonathan Gannon, but like once we moved them over to the edge position, last year was his very first opportunity to be an edge, and I believe, if I can remember correctly, he had like 3.5 sacks. He's looking better now. He's definitely looking better now than he did obviously last year. It seems like he's getting more into the flow of things and playing that role in the edge, because that's not his primary position. It's just he's such a big bodied guy and an athlete that can move from left to right. It's just I feel like Jonathan Gannon recognized what his assets are and try to use them, on the line. And I feel like so far he's looking pretty good. I don't see him as a dominant guy, and I think if you ask any Cardinal fan, the edge is one of the most scarce positions that we have on this roster. But I guess it's hard to say that when Dennis Carter comes off with 3 sacks and a forced fumble in week 2, but that was against a very depleted offensive line in the Rams. So we'll see what happens, but I think so far he's doing good. We have him for 2 more years. We gave him an extension, so obviously I think this regime really does like him.
Big Dortch. Ooh. Is he worth picking up off waivers? I need to know, because kind of thin a wide receiver.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for under the radar. I know we supposed to be. I need to know.
Yeah, honestly, I think my fandom would say yes, but honestly, as a fantasy player myself, I would say no.
Okay.
Yeah. It depends on how deep your league is, though, at the end of the day. Like, if you're, like, sitting with, like, a 12, 14-person league, then that's different. But if you're sitting with a 10-person, I probably wouldn't, honestly. Okay. Marvin Harrison Jr. has come out, and I think he's here to stay.
You really do? Okay. That was my next follow-up question. Do you think he's here to stay?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we just saw a glimpse. And that's the thing. Like, Kyler Murray had such a fantastic game last week that, like, he missed 4 incompletions, and all 4 of those were to Marvin Harrison Jr. And they were like very, very, like, Marvin could have had 3 touchdowns with the fade route and a couple different things that just didn't go their way. But their connection is just getting better and better and better. And we're barely getting to week 3. So I'm just really excited to see what they're going to do.
Should I trade Jamar Chase for Marvin Harrison?
Ooh, that's a tough one. That's a tough one.
I'm being real.
You're asking a Cardinal fan, though, man.
Because I don't really believe in Jamar Chase, so I'm just trying to look for a wide receiver I can flip him for. So
if you can flip him, I would say there's a lot of high ceiling with Marvin Harrison Jr. I would say do it, but also keep in mind you're talking to a Cardinal fan. I think this is going to be the next best wide receiver since Megatron. So keep that in mind.
Oh Lord, okay. Is Kyler Murray going to be able to get him the ball on a consistent basis? That's where I know he's an uber talent, Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison, but is Kyler Murray somebody you truly believe in? I know I got a ton of questions because I'm a Kyler Murray fan. Tell you, I would trade him. I would trade Jared Goff for Kyler.
All right. Well, we can leave that out of the conversation.
But do you believe Murray will be able to get him the ball on a consistent basis?
I do. I think after week 1, because of obviously the caliber of the name of Marvin Harrison Jr., the 1 target, was like 3 targets, 1 reception, 40 yards was absolutely unacceptable. Like, it got to the point where like every other question was, where's Marvin? Why wasn't Marvin involved? And I think it kind of got to the point where, although Jonathan Gannon and this team says like, oh, we don't listen to the outside noise, like that was to the point where like they needed to change something, like, because this is arguably your best wide receiver that you picked up with the 4th overall pick. You got to use them.
You didn't have to bring up the golf thing. That was unnecessary. But Marvin Harrison was awesome last week, bro. Hey, I would do it. I'd make that trade. I'm pretty trash at fantasy, so I'm not the guy to ask you. That's why he asked you. Here's okay. That again unnecessary. Here's the question that I don't know how you're going to answer this, to be honest, but an injury report question. So Calvin Beachum, we're not sure if he's going to play. If he doesn't play, like, what's the confidence level? I mean, the backup level. It sounds like they're going to go to the practice squad. Like, what do you think that could absolutely mean in this game if your right tackle can't go?
Oh, it's bad. It's bad news. Yeah. Kelvin Beachum did not practice today. When Jonathan Gannon spoke to him in the press conference, he did make it seem like you'll see. Like, he's always like that, though. It's not like this is a one thing. He's always like keeping things to, really close to the chest and doesn't like to say things when literally it's going to be answered like 30 minutes later when it's open practice. But I don't know. He didn't practice today. I have confidence that he will go. I think maybe they just gave him a day off. I know hamstring is really just depending on exactly how bad that injury is or that hamstring injury is. But I think he is going to go. Now, if he doesn't, yeah, they might have to elevate a guy from practice squad or use one of their depth players. And a lot of these guys, there's no confidence level in them to me. So, yeah.
And he's already your backup tackle, right? So it's like most teams don't have a backup tackle. You're already on to the backup tackle. And Kelvin Beach has been solid. I got to ask you on the way out. I got to ask for your score prediction. If you change it later, it's all good. But I got to ask for your score prediction on the way out, man. And I appreciate you joining.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I'm just going to spoil alert right here. I have all the confidence in the world that this Arizona Cardinal team is going to be able to pull out the win. I think you guys are a very solid team. But I don't know. I was hearing some comments here from Dan Campbell. One of them talking about like your guys' offense that you won't be surprised if it's, not clicking to like the bye week. I don't know. I feel like if the Cardinals had an opportunity to strike, this is the time to do it. I say this is going to be still a very high scoring game. I say the Cardinals win. I say 33-30 Arizona Cardinals win at home and have a back-to-back win.
You know what? At least it's a fun game. I'll be honest. If we're gonna lose, let's make it fun. I don't want whatever last week was. That was a disaster. I don't want to watch a game like that again. Hey, man, I appreciate you joining, man. It was awesome to have you on here, and I'm glad that you were, man. Thank you.
Absolutely, guys. Appreciate it, man. I hope for a good game.
All right, nice meeting you, bro. Be easy.
Absolutely, man. All right, shout out to the AZ Sports fan. That was fire.
Well, fantasy help. I'm kind of, I think I'm gonna actually go trade for Jamar Chase. Trade Jamar Chase after this and go get Harrison.
Yeah, I mean, you could have just asked me. We've been here for 30 minutes, and you just held that one.
My bad. I apologize.
Until you had the. Yeah,
right. I do apologize. My bad, bro.
Injury report. This is Fridays. We know these are not the injury designations yet. We'll get those Sunday before the game, and it's 4:25, I believe, Eastern kickoff time. So here's the injury report, and really, it sounds like a lot of good, and you could see I put the little quotation marks there so that we kind of had an idea of what was said. But the biggest one I would say for me is Alex Anzalone. He's questionable for this game. Not sure if he's going to going through concussion protocol, and I don't know that there's like great updates you can get there. It's just kind of wait and see. And you said this a little bit earlier in the show, how good Alex has been this season when I brought up Brian Branch being one of our best, if not our best defensive player. He's been awesome this year, and this is a team he's going to have to be awesome against. So Alex is questionable for this one. Terrion Arnold's also questionable, but he was listed with illness, and then he popped up. He had the finger injury, which apparently he dislocated it, got it wrapped. He says he's good there. He's back today in practice. So he's good to go. He had his soup. He did his thing. So he's going to be fine. And then Graham Glasgow was also apparently good to go, which would have been a huge one. I think, we lose anybody on this offense, fine, it's massive. But we're sitting here talking about how important it's going to be to get back to the run game. Graham Glasgow is going to be a huge part of that. Outside of that, though, the biggest ones, Marcus Davenport, St. Brown are set to go. St. Brown, this first off, St. Brown never misses any time. I mean, shout out to St. Brown. This dude, even when he was hurt during the game, it's insane, man. You see him get hurt, and you're just like, You're kind of not sure what to do because you're like, well, I'm sure he's going to get back out there. I mean, I know he looks messed up, but he's probably going to keep playing. And then he does. And then Marcus Davenport coming back to me is the biggest one. Not only because he's going to be putting the action so much in this game with the rush scheme, with how wide they like to play, but also because of the stat I read earlier, man. After the first week, 5th in pass rush win rate. What my take for this season, one of my bold takes, is he's going to earn himself an extension. After this season, he's going to play that well. He's one of these prove it deal kind of guys, and a lot of it's going to be just simply about health, like as we're finding out already. But I think he'll miss games. He's going to miss some games. He's already missed one. We can kind of just count him down for at least probably 5. You know what I mean? Hey, he's probably going to miss about 5. Going to be so darn good, opposite of Hutchinson, that he's going to earn the extension here. He fits in too well, man. He just plays with his hair on fire. He fits in too well.
He does.
So does anything stand out on the Lions side, and then we'll kind of touch on the Arizona side for you?
I mean, Alex Anzalone not playing would be that would be huge for us. Kind of like the defense heartbeat, I want to say. Like, he is the captain. He makes them go. He clicks. He's the quarterback of our defense. That's pretty much what you're losing, is the quarterback of the defense by losing him. So I would hope that he's playing. We do have depth at the off-ball linebacker, but I still believe Alex Anzalone is our best off-ball linebacker. So losing him would be huge in that offensive line intact. Graham Glasgow playing is huge for us. So, I mean, everybody being okay is always huge. You never want to lose any starters.
Right.
But if Alex is out, that's going to hurt a little bit because he is the heartbeat of the defense.
And to me, that one hurts specifically because when I think about if you don't have Alex, they'll probably just plug in Malcolm to his spot. But I'm just saying, like, Derek Barnes being on the line of scrimmage for this game, he's going to be so clutch in this one. And he was good last week. They got him in the mix a little bit last week, but I think back to last time we played Arizona 2021 and how big Charles Harris was and how they put him in the action. And I think back to last week where even, that last possession defensively where, the second to last one, but they got us back on the field where he bats the pass down at the line of scrimmage. He almost picked it off. It'd been crazy if you'd have did that. And that's the kind of thing that he's going to be involved in so much against Kyler Murray. Like, they're going to throw him in the action a ton, I expect. So if you didn't have Alex, them maybe wanting to move Derek Barnes to off ball, now it's like, well, who do we put there? So I think they'll have to be then forced to put Malcolm Rodriguez into his spot, which, Malcolm's been fine. I think Malcolm could play in a game like this. Yeah. I'm not mad at it either. Not mad at it, but, you like to have Alex. This is a game, too, where it's like, specifically Jack Campbell on paper feels like the perfect game for him to be so massive, like in the passing attack. Because when I think about this Arizona Cardinals game, man, I'm just like, hey, I think you want him throwing over the middle. We could touch on that in a second. I think you want him trying to throw in the middle because, he's on the shorter side, right? So they're going to make it difficult for him to see. But at the same time, Jack Campbell's size, like, that's just a problem. Like, you got a guy that has to see that dude in the middle feels like go behind that guy. I just feel like on paper, that's going to be a matchup issue. I think we're going to see it at least once where, like, they show the replay. Look, you couldn't see over Campbell. He's standing there. It's incomplete or it's picked off or something. I don't know. I just see something like that happening. To the Arizona side, though, again, he hit on the biggest one, which was Kelvin Beachum. That's the biggest one. Outside of that, your boy Greg Dortch is on there as well. That's kind of big because he is a starter, if we're talking three receivers, and he's a punt returner too.
Kelvin Beachum would be huge. At that point now, you got Hutch or Davenport or Josh going up against a backup of a backup.
Yeah.
Got to make sure we press in that pocket also. So the D-line has to come to play because Kyler does love to run. And keeping him contained is going to be an issue.
So it makes Davenport so crucial for this one, what you just said, because it's like we need pocket pushers, man, and that's what Davenport is. And if it is a third string, I assume because Kelvin Beachum's a big guy. Like he's not a guy that you're just going to move around. You can get it inside outside of him, but you're not going to move him around that well. But if there's a third string, and then you have on the opposite side Davenport collapse in the pocket, I feel pretty good, even though he's going to be working against Paris Johnson a lot in this one. The last couple of notes to the Lions side, Ife Melifonwu, yes, he's still out, but it sounds like he's not going to be hitting IR, so he's maybe not that far out for the Lions. They're trying to get him back soon. Yeah. And then the Rakestraw one, which stinks. He's out for this game. That popped up before the last game. They said like 4 minutes before they had to put the injury report in, hamstring injury. He was listed as out for that game. We thought it was a healthy scratch, but no, he actually just injured his hamstring. So keep an eye on that one. And then also Isaiah Williams, he's questionable for this one, but Isaiah Williams definitely going the right direction. Get the sense Tim Patrick's going to be elevated again. I just don't see why not. I'm really optimistic about what he can add to this team. What do you see with that receiver room? Because we added some vets. You still got Tom Kennedy around. He's been up a couple times. And then you also have Allen Robinson now in the practice squad. Isaiah Williams potentially. Do you see Isaiah Williams being the guy if he's good to go? Do you see them sticking around with Tim Patrick? And do you think Tim Patrick can become like a big part of this offense?
Or be a big focal point of this offense? No. I think he can slide in and play that Josh Reynolds role. We need a first down. You got to go across the middle, run a 15-yard in or a 10-yard in and get us a first. I think he can do that. Tim Patrick still has the juice left.
Last segment that me and Rad are going to do here is we're going to give our players to watch, man. We're going to give some players to watch from this game. I don't think we have a specific amount, but we're going to give some players to watch, offense, defense, and I always like to leave this open, and this isn't necessarily the guys that we think are going to go crazy in the game, but for me, it's always the guys that focus on what they do, because I think they can kind of be, is the right word a barometer? They can be a barometer of how this game's actually going to go. If they're playing well, we're probably playing well. If they're not, we could be in some trouble because they're exposing something on our team. So we can look at this from a couple different angles. I did put a little bit of a list together. Talk through a couple of mine. I'll throw it to you, Rad. If you got a name, give me a name on either side, Arizona or the Lions. But I'll start here first from mine. On the Lions side, I think Sam Laporta is big in this game. So we just talked about having to get back to running the ball. Okay, I got you. But Sam Laporta, it's about time we score in the red zone. And Sam Laporta is the guy that's for that. And I think Sam Laporta, even though, we had AZ Sports fan on, he was talking about the safety room, which is good. Jalen Thompson has looked good. And they got some real length back there. But I just don't feel like anybody really has a great matchup for Laporta. Like, not one-on-one. There's not really a great matchup for that guy. And from what I've seen against this defense, I think size can be a little bit of an issue once you get inside the 20. I think this is the game where the Lions do score in the red zone. I think they're a little more efficient in this game. And I think Sam Laporta is kind of the guy that could open that up for them in this game, is getting back to, hey, let's just get him a one-on-one. Let's get him the ball. Let's throw it away from a defender there. We don't need everything to be a tight window pass. So for me, first off, it's Sam Laporta. And then first off for Arizona, it's Budda Baker. He said to focus on Jalen Thompson, not Budda Baker. I'm focusing on Budda Baker, man. We just saw Jordan Whitehead play the Lions. And that was the most frustrating thing. That was so annoying. This dude he just went out straight up, missed no tackles. Jordan Whitehead was incredible in that game, and I know I'm a big Jordan Whitehead guy. He was good in coverage too. This guy was all over the place. And then all of a sudden, I start watching for Arizona, and I'm like, oh goodness, they got one of those. They got the same dude on the other side, man.
Oh yeah,
Buda
He's
Baker's
a stud.
everywhere.
He's a stud.
So my goodness, man, we're gonna have our hands full with that guy. What do you think about those two? And do you have another guy you want to add to this list?
I like those two right there. Buda Baker is a stud. I mean, I think he's an all-pro safety. We have an all-pro tight end. I think it is time to start getting Laporta involved in the offense. He's been quiet for 2 weeks. Let's get back to the basics, and he's a part of the basics. He's a part of the reason why we got to the NFC Championship last year. He's a huge focal point of our offense. Mine is going to be Carlton Davis. We brought you in to lock down number ones. Go lock down the rookie, the number 4 overall pick, Marvin Harrison Jr. I want to see those two. I want to see how he handles that. He said he wants to follow guys around. He wants to trail guys. Well, let's line him up against Marvin Harrison. No matter which side he's lined up, slot, outside, any side, it doesn't matter. I want to see what Carlton Davis is going to do. I think he's been playing pretty good for us. He's a really good corner, but, like the AZ fans said, Marvin Harrison is the guy. He's the next best thing he's seen since Calvin Johnson. So I'm excited to see that matchup, and I hope he follows Marvin Harrison. That would be huge for us because we haven't had a corner do that since Darius Slay. We haven't had that type of caliber of a cornerback, and now we do. And I want to see him follow him. I'm excited for that one. What about you?
Yeah, Well, hey, look, just to add, like, what stood out to me with Marvin is they had all these big plays, off script, but it was seemingly every time he was like one-on-one, he was like, oh, just throw it to Marvin. And like he said, the incomplete passes were also to Marvin. And it was crazy. It was like they're force feeding this guy the football. It's so for your point, if Carlton's on this guy, especially if they're just sitting in man, which we'll see if they do, but if they do, we know Aaron Glenn loves to, he's going to get targeted a ton. Like there is no, I don't think, getting away from the guy getting targets. He's going to get targeted. There's a very legitimate chance he gets 10 plus targets in this game. So the ball is going to be flying his way a lot, but I love that matchup on paper. Like you're saying, all those back shoulder things, all the work that they do to the sideline, a guy like Carlton with that kind of length is perfect for this, right? Because I don't worry as much about like getting in and out of breaks. I don't think Carlton's maybe going to be stressed as much there as it will be at the catch point, and I love Carlton's length for that. I think this is a good matchup for him, actually. I think he's built well to look good. He's always been really good against bigger receivers. I think this is a good matchup for him on paper to do well here. For me, I'll flip it over back to the Arizona side. I'm going with the underrated name. I'm going Roy Lopez. First off, I love the name. It's fire. Okay, I didn't know his first name was Roy. That's heat. Roy Lopez. That alone, that's why he's here. But also, just to add a little context to it, Roy Lopez, look, man, if we're being honest, most people, if you ask them, hey, name some players on this Cardinal defense, okay? They're not going to be able to. We'll just be honest. They're not going to be able to, okay? It's a lot of guys where it was like last year, it's kind of the first year, and they're like, all right, we're kind of figuring this thing out. And a couple of those guys stuck around. They've added some new pieces in there. It's a lot of guys that have had up and down careers. Like, look at their entire defensive line. It's how they're all kind of together, and they've actually kind of made it work. Roy Lopez was the guy that popped when I was preparing for this one, just because, first off, he's going to be in the action all the time against the run. And if you look at it statistically, Arizona, Brad, I don't know if you know this, Arizona, I believe they are allowing 3.5 yards to carry. They're top 10 in yards per game allowed rushing, which last year, complete opposite. They were a disaster against the run. However, obviously he's only played 2 games, and when you look at who they played, which was LA last week, who couldn't do anything because their offensive line was terrible, has a lot to do with it. I still walk away looking at those numbers saying, we can run the ball on this team. And I think Roy Lopez is going to be the key piece. I like some of them. I like Justin Jones. I liked him when he was in Chicago, but this is the key piece to me because he kind of stabilizes everything. And this is the kind of matchup where it's like Frank Ragnow can be dominant in a game like this. And I do think, like you said earlier, we're going to lean on the run game. I think we're going to get back to that efficiency in this game. And, again, trying to limit what they could do defensively. And I think Roy Lopez kind of starts and ends with how he performs. Rad, do you have another name?
Running back room. I don't.
Okay.
I want to see how.
Never heard of him.
David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, how they're going to bounce back. I don't think they had a bad rushing game. It all depends on Ben Johnson. That's somebody who I'm truly worried about. But you're talking about Roy Lopez, but they ain't ran again. He ain't went up against Frank Ragnow, Graham, Penne, Argoon. So I'm not too much worried about this defensive line. I'm going to be honest with you. I think we're going to run all over these boys. It all depends on Ben Johnson if he gets back to the basics. That's That's a person I'm watching for Ben Johnson. I want to see the type of plays that he's calling. I want to see if we're about to go out here and throw the ball 50 times. That's where my main focus is going to be this week. Personnel, I feel like we match up very well. I think we have the more talented team. It's all about Ben Johnson to me. I know you wanted me to throw out a player, but I'm throwing out a coach. It's Ben Johnson. It's play calling to me. I want to see if we're going to run the ball close to 30 times this game. Nobody can match up against us. We have the offensive line in the NFL. We have the best running back duo in the NFL. So let's go out here and show it. Ben Johnson.
Week 1 was truly disrespectful. The way that game ended was
it was beautiful.
It was beautiful. It was one of the most disrespectful things I've seen. I'm not gonna. They just ran the football. I mean, it was amazing. It really was. It was so dominant. Like that is
on college football 25. I just run the ball.
Well, actually, this is true.
Ground and pound.
I do believe
it was beautiful. Yeah. So no, he's who's I got all eyes on is the play calling.
Like to make the bet, we did not throw 50 times this week. So I think your wish will come true.
I would hope
we will not throw 50 times this week.
I hope we don't throw the ball 35 times.
If we're not throwing 35 times, we're probably playing really good football, man. We are probably playing really sound football. We can. No, you're right. It's about time. No, it is about time. Let's put it together this week. We're going to get to our score here in a little bit at the end. But I like that you brought up you see how I put David Montgomery on there, Rat? So we were thinking alike. But then you moved into Ben Johnson. And you know what? And I'm not mad at you putting Ben Johnson on there. But I will say the reason I put Laporta first was because this cornerback room intrigues me so much. Like Sean Murphy-Bunting to me has not looked good from watching Arizona at all. I mean, he's a guy, right? We know who he is. He doesn't look right, I feel like, in this defense. And then, like, the rotation with Williams and Sterling Thomas, they have a lot of length, right? They'll play a lot of off coverage. I just feel like that's a matchup where it kind of goes back to the Tim Patrick thing. Getting outside the numbers, going to win those one-on-one matchups, I feel like that's absolutely on the table. But the guy that could thrive from all of this, to me, is Sam Laporta. Because he's the guy that could play in front of these cornerbacks, these guys that want to sit off, that can work in front of the safeties. We got a glimpse of it week 1 against the LA Rams on our drive that set up the field goal to then go to overtime, where he hit the big pass over the middle, then he got hit in the head, and they got the flag. Those are the kind of throws I think Sam Laporta opens up in this game, just because of how they play schematic. They're bringing their linebackers, they're dropping out edge, so they're kind of leaving the middle of the field exposed, I feel like, in a lot of ways. And because their cornerbacks are kind of just letting everything happen in front of them, this is a perfect opportunity for Sam Laporta to be that guy that just works right behind those guys over and over and over. So that's why, just to expand on that. But the Dave Montgomery one is exactly what you said, and I think this was perfect because I didn't know you were going to say this at the beginning, but we went there anyway. You're talking about, hey, David Montgomery's got to get so many carries. He's got to get in kind of that rhythm. This is the game to do that, right? When I was preparing for this game, I wrote it down as like, this is the kind of game where you want to have those 10 plus play drives if you can. And if that's David Montgomery, because you just kind of wear them down, because this defensive line to me, we go through those starters and those names. Not only is there some inconsistencies there, but they also rotate a ton. The AZ Sports fan just laid it out, right? He just told you without telling you, they rotate everywhere. Their edge rushers rotate, not their linebackers really, their defensive line, their corners, they rotate everybody. So I think this is the team that is, the longer these drives extend, because you're just letting Monty run downhill 4 yards, 5 yards, and it's just wearing them down. They're having to sub in and out defensive linemen. Then you start getting to their backups like Chris Tonga and LJ Collier, and you're running all over those guys because those guys don't match up with us. Like that, to me, I'm looking at, it's not even about the starters. It's like, their depth does not match up with their starters, and they're going to rotate those guys. So just run downhill with Monty. Let's get a long drive going. Let's start to force them to rotate guys in and out. Let's wear them down, just like what you said. And that could mean a big day for Dave Montgomery. It's ugly football, but it's not even ugly football. But, it's not. It is beautiful. It's beautiful from a line. It's going to be ugly for them. And it absolutely could be ugly for them. So I think Dave Montgomery is a perfect player for a game just like this, especially after how last week went down.
I'd like to see Hutch get at least 2 sacks. I want to see Hutch again get 2 sacks. Just to keep that energy going, that defensive player of the year energy, and just keep attacking, baby. Attacking.
Yeah.
D-line, we're going to have to contain Kyler Murray.
That's
Make sure we're pushing the pocket, staying in our pass rush lanes and things like that. If we're going to run a lot of zone to keep our eyes on Kyler, because when you get to playing man, turning your back, and he takes off and run, things like that. I think so. D-line.
To me, that's the most. Well, I'm just because you just started saying it. To me, I was going to bring that up. That's the most interesting thing about this game. That's the most intriguing thing to me is how does Aaron Glenn go about this? Because if we just look at the time he's played Kyler Murray, it was awesome. Last time we played them, we had an awesome game at home against him, 30-12. We beat them. They looked out of sorts. They were 10-3 going into that game, but coming into this one, you know what you're going to get. And if you look at last week, almost every big play, Kyler Murray extends the play, gets out of the pocket. Tampa Bay bucket, now it's different. You don't prepare the same probably for Baker Mayfield. But, I mean, one of their scoring drives was literally Baker Mayfield just extending plays. It was like nothing on script is really working. And it wasn't even him running. It was just like the plays going on way too long. Someone got open. Kyler Murray is the best at doing that in the NFL. And now they have... and now they got Marvin, who's just running behind everybody, and he's got a big time arm, so he's giving them an opportunity. I'm interested to see that. So let me get that take from you here. Interested to see is what kind of coverage do they play in this game? What do they lean into? Because I'm battling between two things. I think 2 deep safeties makes a lot of sense, right? I think forcing everything back inside makes a lot of sense when I see Arizona. 1, they're not as efficient at getting big plays because things don't break down as often. But number 2, I want Kyler Murray to play over the middle field. I don't want it simplified. I don't want one-on-ones out there with Marvin Harrison. I want him to have to throw behind our linebackers. That's what I'm saying. Look, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I just want to make it difficult for you to see. I want everything going over the field. I want you throwing into traffic. But the flip side is, knowing Aaron Glenn, wouldn't be shocked at all if when the Lions play man and they come in saying, we still want to play man. We don't care that he's going to run. We're playing man. And we're not playing a spy because that's Aaron Glenn's thing. We're just going to blitz when we play man. We're going to bring 5, and you guys just better stay in your lanes. That's kind of how I see this playing out. What about you?
I would agree. I mean, Aaron Glenn has showed us what he likes to do. I can see him bringing 5, playing a lot of man. I personally would probably run a little too high safety. I just wouldn't give up the big play. I'm going to sit in some cover 4. I want you to dink and dunk us down the field and not make a mistake, Kyler. That's what right. So I'm coming into the game. I'm just protecting the big play. James Conner is a good running back, but I feel like we are so good at stopping the run and so beefy up front that we can shut him down. He's not super explosive, anything like that. He's more of like a power runner, good balance, things like that. So the run doesn't scare me. It's really just giving up the big play. Like you say, I would have a 2 safety. I would send in some 4, give you little 3-5 yard gains, rally to the football, tackle them. Okay, do it again. Now do it again and do it again. Tyler, I want you to put together a 12-play drive and get in the end zone. That's what I want to see because he will make mistakes. See Glenn coming in, blitzing and running man.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's who he is. That's what he does, man. You already know what time it is.
You know, that's what I would like us to run, but it just probably won't work out that way.
I think the exact same way because that's what I was thinking too, and I think the same way. And even if you look at it, it's like, bro, every big play was versus 1 high safety, and it's just him getting off script. I think the same way. Like, I just want I want to make them work for it, and I know that the big challenge there is like, well, can you then stop the run because they run the ball so well? So if you do that, you're stopping the run, and it's like, hey, cornerbacks, you could still press your corners, man. Just press your corners, all right, and stay with 2 deep. If they're gonna run everything wide, your corner's got to be down there for run support regardless. So that's how I look at it too. Same way that you do. I think we'll see a lot of that 2 high safety, and at the snap, we'll see them a lot of just rolling out of it. Show it. Like, you're not getting over top. And then at the snap, they'll start to roll down, and that way they could support the run. My last one, I'll just throw a little note to for me is Derek Barnes because to me, he's just going to be in the action so much in this one, especially if they start to go to some of their quarterback design runs. He's going to be in the mix a ton in this game. So before we leave, we're going to end it with this.
What's that?
Our score prediction. We got to end with the score prediction. All right. And whoever gets it wrong has to take 5 spoonfuls of the hottest hot sauce on earth. And I got it right here. No, I'm playing. Hey, Rad, what is your what is your score prediction?
Score prediction is going to be 31-17 Detroit Lions.
Boy, man, that's pretty close to mine. My final score prediction, and I was close to getting there. I was like, ooh, should I get there? I didn't get there. I went 24-17 Lions in this one. I think the only reason I went lower is because I think we just a lot more time of possession. I think that's the idea here is that we just hold the ball too long. But it'll be comfortable. We'll end with the ball in our hands. We'll be taking a knee. It won't be like on defense or something like that. We are good to go, man.
When are we back?
We're back when we want to be back, to be honest with you. We're at very least we're back next week. I can guarantee you that. We'll be back next week. Cool, but until then, this was episode 1 of our new podcast episode. Check us out over there on Believe. Check us out. Listen to the audio version of this. There will be less graphics on these shows because it's about the audio version. So this is your opportunity if you're just driving in the car or whatever. This is where you want to get that in. Also, I don't know what we're calling this. So if you guys have any great ideas, throw them down below. Let me know. I'm supposed to come up with the title or name for this. I don't have one. I always call my stuff the Dodcast, but that doesn't feel right. We need something fresh. We need something new. So let me know. But we'll see if we get that figured out for episode 2. Brad, appreciate you joining, man. We're going to end it here.